Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
You ever just space out?
Yeah.
Like completely lose your train of thought?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Or like walk into a room and totally forget why you went in there?
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time. Happens more and more lately.
Right. Like it's kind of funny, but also
Yeah. Makes you wonder.
a little concerning, right?
Yeah.
Especially as we get older. Makes you wonder what's actually happening in our brains.
Yeah, for real. Like, what's changing up there?
Well, good news. Today we are diving into some really cool research that's looking into the brain's like built-in cleaning system.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And get this, how sleep plays a huge role in keeping it working right.
Interesting. I am definitely intrigued.
Yeah, so to break it all down, we've got info from two main sources. First up, we have this super clear health news article from the University of Hong Kong. They're reporting on some brand new discoveries.
Okay.
And second, we're going straight to the source, the actual detailed scientific study, hot off the press.
Love it. Love to see it.
It was published in this journal called Molecular Psychiatry, so you know it's legit.
Definitely. So what's the mission for today's deep dive?
Well, simply put, we want to understand how sleep affects our memory as we age.
Makes sense.
And we're really going to zoom in on this system in the brain that gets rid of waste. Scientists are realizing it's way more important than we used to think.
I'm ready to zoom.
Okay, so you know how tons of studies have shown that if you don't sleep well, you might have trouble thinking clearly or remembering things?
Right, makes sense. Like you're just tired.
Right, exactly. But this new research wanted to go deeper. They focused on a specific system called the Glymphatics system.
Lymphatic system. Okay.
That's spelled G-L-I-A-L-Lymphatics. Think of it like the brain's own little garbage disposal, cleaning up all the leftovers from our brain power.
Okay, so like it's taking out the trash.
Precisely.
No.
And keeping this system in tip-top shape is like super important for our brain health, especially as we get older, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because if the garbage doesn't get taken out, things start to pile up, right? And in the brain, that means harmful proteins can build up.
Good.
Definitely not good. These proteins have been linked to some serious stuff like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and even epilepsy.
So basically, we got to make sure our brains are taking out the trash regularly.
100%. And that's where this new study comes in. Professor Takia M.C. Lee and her team at the University of Hong Kong, they were really curious about this whole thing.
Yeah.
They wanted to know, how does poor sleep affect this glial lymphatic system? And how does that tie into memory problems that some older adults face?
That's a great question. So how did they even go about studying something like that?
Right. It sounds kind of complicated.
Yeah, super complicated.
Well, they had 72 older adults participate in the study.
Okay.
And to peek inside their brains, they used a technique called functional magnetic resonance imaging. We'll just call it fMRI for short.
fMRI. Okay, got it.
It's spelled F-U-N-C-T-I-O-N-A-L space M-A-G-N-E-T-I-C space R-E-S-O-N-A-N-C-E space I-M-A-G-I-N-G. These scans are pretty amazing. They let the researchers see which parts of the brain were lighting up during different activities.
Wow, that's pretty high tech.
It is. And they didn't stop there. They also wanted to know all about the participants' sleep. So they used really detailed sleep recordings to track what was going on.
Okay, how did they do that?
So for 68 of the participants, they did this thing called polysomnography. It's like a super comprehensive sleep study that they do overnight.
So like they were monitoring everything.
Pretty much. Brain waves, eye movements, breathing, heart rate, the whole 9 yards.
Wow, okay, so
But-
that covers the sleep part, but how did they actually measure the glial lymphatic system itself?
Right, because you can't just like take it out and look at it.
Exactly, it seems really hard to study.
Well, luckily the researchers had a trick up their sleeves. They used a non-invasive technique called diffusion tensor image analysis along the paravascular space. It's a mouthful, so we'll call it DTI-ALPS.
DTI-ALPS, got it. But what does it do?
That's spelled D-I-F-F-U-S-I-O-N space T-E-N-S-O-R space I-M-A-G-E space A-N-A-Y-S-I-S space A-L-O-N-G space T-H-E space P-E-R-I-V-A-S-C-U-L-A-R space S-P-A-C-E.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Basically, it lets them estimate how well the glial lymphatic system is working by looking at how water molecules move along the blood vessels in the brain.
Huh, that's pretty clever. So they're kind of tracing the flow to see if there are any blockages in the brain's plumbing, in a way?
Exactly, like a brain drain checkup.
Okay, that makes sense.
But wait, there's more. They also looked at how different parts of the brain were connected to each other, like physically connected. Those are called structural networks.
Okay.
And they also looked at how their activity patterns matched up, like how in sync they were. Those are called functional networks.
Got it. So how well they're communicating.
Yeah, exactly. And using the fMRI data, they actually mapped these connections and even calculated something called coupling between the structural and functional networks.
Coupling? What's
Right.
that?
It basically shows how closely these networks are working together. Like, are they on the same page or are they doing their own thing?
Oh, I see. So like how well they're coordinated.
Yeah, precisely. So they had all this data about the participants' sleep, brain activity, how well their waste removal system seemed to be working. And to top it off, they also tested their memory using questionnaires and a bunch of cognitive tests.
Whoa, so they really covered all the bases. What did they find out?
Right. It's a lot to take in. Well, one of the biggest findings was this. People who slept worse had lower scores on that DTI-ALPS measure, the one that estimates how well the glial lymphatic system is working.
Interesting. So bad sleep, bad cleanup crew.
Basically. The worse the sleep quality, the less efficient the brain's waste removal system seemed to be. And they even found that people who reported just feeling like their sleep was poor, even if their sleep recordings looked okay, still had lower DTI-ALPS scores.
So even if you don't think you're sleeping badly, if you feel like it's not great, your brain might be paying the price.
It really might be. They also found that people who slept for shorter periods had lower scores too.
So duration matters.
Duration matters. And get this, a higher apnea-hypopnea index, which means more pauses in breathing during sleep, was also linked to a less efficient glial lymphatic system.
Oh, that's interesting. So sleep apnea might actually be messing with the brain's cleaning system.
Yeah, it seems like it could be a factor. Basically, any kind of disruption to sleep, whether it's the quality, the length, or even breathing issues, might affect how well the brain can clear out that waste.
Wow, okay. This is getting really interesting. What else did they find?
So remember how they looked at those brain networks, the structural and functional ones?
Yeah.
They found that the DTI-ALPS score, that measure of glial lymphatic function, was connected to how strong the connections were in both of those networks.
So how well the cleanup crew was working was linked to how well the brain was wired up.
Exactly. And this connection was especially strong in certain areas, like the middle temporal gyrus and parahippocampal gyrus, parts of the brain that play a big role in memory.
Okay, so it's not just about the trash removal itself, it's about how that affects the brain's ability to communicate, especially in areas that are crucial for memory.
Right, exactly. It's like if the trash isn't getting picked up, the roads get clogged and traffic backs up.
Haha. Yeah, the good analogy.
Now for the really interesting part. They found that lower DTI-ALPS scores, meaning a less efficient waste removal system, were actually linked to stronger synchronization between those structural and functional connections. But here's the catch. This only happened in specific areas of the brain called rich club regions.
Rich club regions, what are those?
Think of them like the VIP areas of the brain. They're these super connected hubs that are essential for information to flow efficiently throughout the whole brain network.
Oh, okay, so they're kind of like the main control centers.
Exactly. And when the brain's cleaning crew isn't doing its job, these control centers seem to become more tightly coupled in their activity, like they're overcompensating or something.
Huh. So it's like they're trying to work harder to make up for the fact that the trash isn't being taken out efficiently?
That's one way to think about it, yeah. And the researchers think that the glial lymphatic system actually plays a key role in mediating the relationship between sleep quality and this rich club synchronization.
So the cleanup crew is kind of the link between how well we sleep and how well these control centers in our brain are communicating.
It seems that way. Poor sleep leads to a sluggish waste removal system, which then messes with how these important brain hubs coordinate their activity. It's a chain reaction.
Wow. So it's not just that bad sleep makes you feel foggy, it's actually impacting how your brain functions on a deeper level.
Exactly. And it all ties back to memory, too. They found that how synchronized those connections were in the rich club regions actually played a role in how well people performed on memory tasks.
Okay, so it actually affects memory performance.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This relationship was different for people who generally slept well compared to those who didn't.
How so?
In the good sleepers, a weaker synchronization between those connections was actually linked to better memory performance.
Really? So weaker synchronization means better memory. That's kind of counterintuitive.
It is a bit,
Hmm.
but it suggests that for people who are sleeping well and whose brains are probably cleaning up nicely, a little bit more flexibility in how those control centers communicate might actually be a good thing for memory. Like it allows for a more dynamic and efficient flow of information.
Okay, so it's not about everything being perfectly in sync. It's about having the right amount of flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a well-maintained network can afford to be a little more dynamic.
Yeah.
So we're starting to understand how poor sleep might be contributing to memory issues. And it's not just about feeling tired. It's about disrupting the brain's natural cleaning system, which then throws off communication between different parts of the brain, and that ultimately affects how well we remember things.
It's fascinating how all these things are connected.
It really is. And it highlights how crucial it is to have an efficient glial lymphatic system for healthy brain aging. If we can keep this system working well, it could be a major factor in preventing or at least slowing down age-related cognitive decline.
Makes sense? It's like taking care of your car. If you don't change the oil regularly, the engine's not going to run as smoothly.
Exactly. And remember how they found that more breathing interruptions during sleep, like with sleep apnea, were linked to poor glial lymphatic function?
Yeah.
That just reinforces how important it is to address sleep-related breathing problems for overall brain health.
For sure. It's not just about getting a good night's sleep. It's about making sure your brain is actually getting a chance to clean itself up properly.
So the takeaway here is that conditions like sleep apnea might have even bigger consequences for our brains than we initially thought. It's not just about feeling tired the next day.
It makes you think twice about those snoring issues.
Right. So going back to the rich cloud synchronization, the fact that weaker synchronization was linked to better memory in good sleepers, and that this was connected to how well the waste removal system was working, suggests that a more flexible communication style between these brain hubs might actually be beneficial.
Yeah. So flexibility is key. But what makes the communication more flexible?
Well, it seems like a well-functioning cleaning system might be part of the answer. It's like a well-maintained network can afford to be a little more dynamic.
But that makes sense. It's like when you have a clean and organized workspace, you can be more creative and efficient.
Exactly. It all ties back to keeping things running smoothly. But as with any research, it's important to remember that this study doesn't tell us everything. There are some limitations we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the things we should be cautious about?
Well, for starters, this study was like a snapshot in time. They looked at a group of people at one specific point. So while they found connections between sleep, glial lymphatic function, and memory, we can't say for sure that one thing directly causes another based on this study alone.
Right, so correlation doesn't equal causation.
Exactly. To really nail down cause and effect, we'd need studies that follow the same people over a longer period of time to see how those factors all change together, like a long-term study.
Makes sense.
Another limitation is that the way they measured glial lymphatic function with that DTI-ALPS method is indirect. It gives us an idea of how well the system is working, but it's based on watching water movement, not directly measuring the waste being removed.
Right, so it's an estimation.
Exactly. Future research using more direct ways to measure waste clearance in the brain would be really helpful to confirm these findings. And the DTI-ALPS method is most sensitive to activity near certain fluid-filled spaces in the brain and might not fully capture the function of the entire glial lymphatic system in all regions. It might be missing some of the picture.
Got it. It's like trying to measure the traffic flow of an entire city by only looking at one intersection.
Yeah, good analogy. Plus, this study focused on healthy older adults. The results might not be the same for people with existing neurological conditions or other health issues that can affect sleep and brain function.
So we need more research to see how this applies to different populations.
Definitely. It's important to keep in mind that everyone's different. And another thing, they didn't actually measure the levels of those harmful proteins that the glial lymphatic system is supposed to be cleaning up in this particular study.
Oh, so they didn't directly measure the trash.
Right. They just looked at how well the garbage truck seemed to be working. Future research that combines fMRI with a different type of scan called positron emission tomography, or PET, could provide more concrete evidence of the link between glial lymphatic function and the buildup of these proteins. PE scans can track specific molecules in the brain.
That's interesting. So that would actually show us the trash accumulating.
Exactly. That would be a game changer. And last but not least, although they tested memory in several ways, a wider range of cognitive tests looking at different aspects of thinking would give us an even better understanding of how sleep and glial lymphatic function are affecting our brains.
So basically, more research is needed, but this study is a great starting point.
100%. Yeah. It's like they've opened a door to a whole new understanding of how sleep and brain health are connected.
It's really cool. Did the researchers have anything to say about their findings?
They did. Professor Tatya M.C. Lee, the lead researcher, had some great insights to share. She said, and I quote, "Sleep quality, brain activities, and glial lymphatic functioning are interconnected. Understanding how sleep quality influences the glial lymphatic system and the networks within the human brain offers valuable insight into the fundamental brain mechanisms that underlie changes in memory as we age."
That's a powerful statement. It really highlights how crucial it is to understand these connections for healthy aging.
Right. And she also emphasized the impact of sleep on the brain's networks through the glial lymphatic system. She pointed out that it directly affects memory performance in older adults. She said, and I quote, "The results clearly demonstrate the impact of sleep on the human brain's network activity through the glial lymphatic system, which in turn affects memory performance in older adults. Therefore, maintaining efficient glial lymphatic functioning appears to be crucial for promoting healthy aging."
Wow. So keeping that cleanup crew running smoothly is super important as we get older.
Exactly. And she went on to say that this study provides strong evidence that sleep quality affects our cognitive health through these underlying neural relationships and the interplay between the glial lymphatic system and all the different communication networks in our brains.
So it's not just about sleep. It's about how sleep affects a whole bunch of things going on in our brains.
It's a complex system, but this research is helping us unravel it a little bit, and I think that's super exciting.
I agree. So what does this all mean for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that we need to start taking sleep seriously. It's not just about feeling rested. It's about supporting our brain's natural waste removal processes, which are essential for keeping those brain connections healthy and our memories sharp.
Yeah, making sleep a priority isn't just about feeling good. It's about protecting our brains as we age.
Absolutely. So ask yourself, are you getting enough sleep? Is it good quality sleep? If you're struggling with sleep, this research shows just how important it is to seek help. Whether it's improving your sleep hygiene or talking to a healthcare professional, there are things you can do to improve your sleep.
It's worth the effort.
For sure. It really makes you wonder, could optimizing our sleep be one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to support long-term brain health and memory? And what other everyday habits might be influencing this cleaning system? It's a fascinating area to keep exploring.
I'm definitely thinking about my sleep habits now.
Me too. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today. It's amazing to think about the vital role sleep plays in keeping our brains healthy as we get older.
It's been a pleasure. This research has really opened my eyes to the importance of getting a good night's sleep. It's not just about feeling rested, it's about keeping our brains clean and functioning at their best.
Couldn't have said it better myself. What are your thoughts on all this? Anything in particular that stood out to you? We'd love to hear your reflections. Be sure to join us next time as we continue to explore the science behind our health and well-being.
See you then.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.